Okay, so it is officially 5 o'clock, so we'll get started here. And hi, Jason here, coming to you. I'm reading some because I prepared something because I was so nervous because I'm a bad public speaker. So I wanted to, I'm always nervous about public speaking, so I wrote it so I wouldn't forget. So pretend my eyes aren't looking over there, I'm looking straight at you. Actually, if I angle it this way, it might work. I'll say, hi, Jason here, coming to you from Hey Kids Comics in Brooklyn, New York, and this is totally unscripted. I want to welcome you to our very first virtual event, a drawing workshop with artist and pinball enthusiast, Jon Chad. Jon's new book, which is a history of pinball in graphic novel form, comes out next week, and let me tell you, it is excellent. It's excellent. It's a great read no matter what your age is, so do make sure to check it out. And if you're in New York, you can get it here at Hey Kids Comics. Or if you'd like to order it online and have it delivered to you, you can do that from the Hey Kids Comics online shop at bookshop.org. There's a link in the email we send to you when you register. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jon as soon as I can figure out how to do that so he can do his thing and what we all came here for. Now I just have to remember how to do that.
Just click on the 3 dots on my image, and then you can make me the host.
Aha. All right, take it away.
All right. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jon Chad, and I am a cartoonist and illustrator coming to you all from California. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about perspective. Now, when I designed this talk today, I made it so that it would hopefully be accessible to people of all ages. And I can see that there's a ton of kids in the room. That's great. If any of your parents are nearby and want to participate, you're totally welcome to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and my work, how I became a cartoonist. And then we're going to talk about what is perspective? How did it come to be? What do we use it for? And how can it make what can it do to our drawings to make them a little more realistic? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You're going to see me for a second. Yeah. All right, is everybody seeing my screen? All right. Perfect. All right. As I said, my name is Jon Chad. I grew up on the East Coast in Vermont. I lived in a lot of different small towns, but I now live in Sacramento, California. Vermont and California are not to scale here. California is a huge state and Vermont is very, very tiny. So it was a big adjustment for me to move to such a big city like Sacramento, but I really like it. When I was a kid, I enjoyed comics and I read a lot of newspaper comics and I watched a lot of cartoons. I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joes, Transformers, and I also read a lot of newspaper strips like Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield, Far Side. This comic on the left here was the first comic book I ever owned, Archie comic number 25 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Not only did I like to read comics and watch cartoons, but I also love to draw. These are some of my early drawings. I love to draw monsters and wizards and sorcerers and robots. And I also dabbled in comics. This is the first comic that I ever made. It's a Garfield comic, but obviously I didn't know how to spell that well. So it's a Gerfeld comic. And in this Gerfeld comic, Gerfeld scares Eno off of a table, but then Eno barks and scares Gerfeld onto the ceiling. The end. And then I underlined it 7 times so that you knew that it was the end. And you'll notice that, it's a very basic comic. And I want you to especially pay attention to the table. The table is flat. We're looking at it from a certain angle. And today, when we talk about perspective, we're going to talk about how we can draw something like a table in a way so that it looks more realistic. When it was time for me to go to college, there we go. I went to school in Savannah at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I learned illustration and motion studies, which is a part of animation. I learned illustration and motion studies. When I graduated, I moved back to Vermont and I started working at a cartooning school, a college in Vermont that you can go to teach comics. My job was to work in the basement and make sure that everybody had everything they needed to make books. Printers, scanners, copiers, cutters. It was the coolest basement I've ever worked in. I eventually taught at the school as well, and I taught book design and different bookmaking and all the different digital programs that are used to make books. I stumbled into the world of artist books, which are books that are made by individual artists, and they really inspired me to make my own books. So long before I was a published, cartoonist and I had books out from publishers, I self-published my own books, and I made all these tiny mini comics about whatever I wanted: snakes, wizards, a guy eating too much soup, people fighting in space. I did stuff about, Adventure Time. I did something for regular show. I made books about what I wanted to make books about. And one of these books was about a guy who went to the center of the earth, and he said a lot of stuff about science. And this book ended up being turned into a published book called Leogio that was all about science. And through that, I really discovered a love of writing and drawing nonfiction in comics. And since then, I've done a lot of different nonfiction science comics. My latest book is also nonfiction. And as Jason said, it's all about the history of pinball. Now, many, many years have passed since that first Gerfeld comic, but what I love to draw at its heart is exactly the same. I still love to draw monsters and robots and wizards and sorcerers. I love to draw science fiction stuff, and I love to draw pinball. And something that I have learned throughout my years of practicing drawings is that I really love to draw machinery, and I like to draw environments. I like to draw my characters in interesting places. And because of that, I've learned that perspective is a really good tool for me to put in my tool belt. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about perspective. Now, whenever I say perspective for the next 50 minutes or however much longer we have, I want you to imagine that instead of saying perspective, I'm saying linear perspective. That's just the type of perspective that what we're going to learn today. If you really want to impress your art teacher at school, tell them that you learned linear perspective, and they'll really blow their minds.